So you live in a small town, a very remote area, and there's a lack of resources. You don't have much money. There's not a lot of talent, that is employees, contractors you can call to get the job done. And of course, there's a lack of foot traffic, virtually none. Maybe you live in a place where there's 1,000 people or less and you want to start a business. I'm going to share with you how to start a tea business in the most remote areas, whether you live in an island, poor third world country, middle of America, who knows where, and you have a dream. You want to sell tea, you want to make money, you want to build a business. And I'm going to share with you the fundamental principles. These work. This video is very different from my other videos. Zen's Tea House has hundreds of videos online. We have free PDFs to download at zenstea.com about business techniques, how to sell, how to grow, how to build a profitable business. And this video is going to be a little bit different because we're going to talk about mindset. I've talked about mindset in a couple of videos. The parallels between building a business and raising a child talks about how to look at a business and building generational wealth. Very insightful. I think that's one of my better videos. My favorite video was actually about leaving the military and working for yourself. These videos talk about entrepreneurship and how to make the jump from being a person who is really dependent on other people to provide the job and look for the answers and start thinking like a true blue entrepreneur, building something that never existed before. Building something that never existed before is difficult, and it's not for everyone. It's probably 2-3% of the community, and if you are in a small town, that means that might be you. If you're watching this video, I want to share with you there are 3 things that you need to build a business. You need internet, you need a great work ethic, and you need the right mindset. And I'm going to share with you some of the things that I've learned in some really good books that have proven to be successful. Zen's Business Development Podcast is dedicated to supporting tea entrepreneurship by providing content on innovation, business strategies, trends in the tea industry, and more. If you have any topics you like covered, leave them in the comment below, and please like and subscribe. I'm going to lay down with you some true economic facts that some college professors who teach political science, business, and maybe even economics will tell you, no, this is how society runs. This is how you stimulate an economy. This is how you grow jobs. And there might be some truth to their theories, but what I'm going to share with you is irrefutable. It works. It's not only true for me, but for my associates. I've seen it. If you want to start a business offering a product or a service in a place with little to no resources, build something that didn't exist before. It's not new. Just know that you are going to get some pushback. Albert Einstein said, great spirits have always encountered hostility from mediocre minds. He said something along like that. So we'll put the quote right there. I'm going to quote a number of different people who are way smarter than me, and they're going to explain to you the mindset and attitude to have when you're building a business in a place that lacks resources. And I'm going to start with Carol Dweck. Professor Carol Dweck, she wrote the book, Mindset, The New Psychology of Success. It is a book that I start everyone off with who's never been an entrepreneur to start looking at things from a growth mindset. A fixed mindset person would say, I live in this small town and there's just nothing's ever good gonna happen. I was born this way, I'm gonna die this way. This is how society is. It's limited. You don't want that mindset. You can't have it if you're an entrepreneur. As an entrepreneur, you're going to be constantly faced with challenges, and you're going to have to make decisions that are not necessarily business decisions, they're economic decisions. And that's where I'm going to get to point number 2, Basic Economics by Thomas Sowell. Thomas Sowell, man, his book used to be free on YouTube, but then the powers that be just don't like his pro-capitalism, and it's not even pro-capitalism, just how society works, how business runs, how societies grow. They don't like what he has to say, so they shut down the black man and his conservative views on politics and business because it just does not align with mainstream ideology, which mainstream ideology is largely promoted by the same professors who will tell you this is how you run society. And Thomas Sowell actually talks a lot about the economics behind building a business or building enterprise, building entrepreneurship. And it's largely based off of worldviews. With Carol Dweck mindset, it has you to look at yourself and how you view others, how you view challenges, how you view difficulties and how to overcome them. If you are in that small town, then you're going to face those small town challenges. Which, disclaimer, you don't have to necessarily be from a small town. I met many people from the hood, from the projects, that don't know life outside of their 5-block radius. And so they're dependent on people to provide them the job. They're dependent on people or government to give them the handouts. And it's not good for society. And you'll see that the people who break past that small town or even like poor person mindset, they have a growth mindset, a growth view. And that's very instrumental in being an entrepreneur. Mindset, the New Psychology of Success. Highly recommend it. Read that book. Very well viewed and understood as being successful. Thomas Sowell, not too many people would think about reading a book like this, Basic Economics, but you will need to do this if you are in a small economic, poor, the economy of your local culture, government, your society is struggling. You'll need to understand economics. Because as an entrepreneur, you will be the leader. You will be a leader in your community, and you have to start looking at yourself as a leader. And leaders are not just content with what they know. A boss is someone who's content with what they know. A leader is constantly growing themselves and growing others. And if you want to build something that didn't exist before, you'll have to understand basic economics. There's a quote by Thomas Sowell. He said, pretty much the study of economics is the use of scarce resources, or the use of scarce resources which have alternative uses. There's always a shortage. Small towns it's just more apparent that there's a shortage of people, of talent, of raw material to create a product or a service. But even where I'm at in Los Angeles, I will be faced with the problem. We need X amount of products shipped over here. We lack time, we lack the money, or we lack the resources to get it all taken care of right away. And oh yeah, there's this problem called people, where there's customers and regulations. How do we navigate that? Those are economic decisions. I'll take a quote from Thomas Sowell in his book. He said, when people who study economics, they are better prepared to navigate the world because this is the quote. He said, look, there's a scenario where people are in combat and you have a medic out in the field, and this medic has only enough resources to save 20 people, but 30 people are going to die. 30 people are out in the field, but you don't have enough to save 20 resources. You only have enough resources to save 20 people. How do you do that? How do you solve that problem? This is an economic decision. It's a life and death situation. It's war. It's life. But that is a true scenario, and you're going to find yourself, maybe, Lord willing, not having to make those tough decisions about life and death. But the same concept, if you are making poor economic decisions, poor financial decisions, poor uses of time, it will cost people their jobs. And that's why I'm creating this content specifically on mindset, because there's plenty of people who have the resources, they just don't know how to use it well. Which, by the way, if you want help with that, email me, fernando@zenstea.com. Again, Thomas Sowell, The Scarcity, the Use of Resources which have alternative use. That was the book number 2, Basic Economics. Number 3, 7 Habits of Highly Effective People by Stephen Covey. If you are going to be a leader in your community, you have to read that book, The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. In business, we like to think about what is it I must do to be successful. That's very important. So Stephen Covey makes a great point saying this is what people do. And he also mentions on the back end, and this is what poor people do. So I would say, yes, look at what you must do, but also pay attention to what not to do, because there's plenty of successful people that have ruined their business, their lives, society by making very poor decisions, which really come out of just terrible habits. Number 4, How to Win Friends and Influence People by Dale Carnegie. It is a classic. People are part of society. If you're in a small town, everyone needs to know you, and at least they know that you're offering this product or service because you are a member of the community. And maybe you don't want that small town drama. Maybe you don't want to be held accountable. Maybe you're afraid that people are going to look at you and say, oh my gosh, what? He thinks he's better than me, or she thinks she's doing this, or guess what? Haters are always going to be there. Believe it or not, I had a lot of people who hated on me, and then slowly but surely they started asking me for help, or with a job, or with donating to their own business, because they're like, oh wow, Fernando knows how to do X, Y, and Z. So that's a whole other issue. Don't let that get to you. Be good with people. Know how to win them and know how to influence them for your betterment, and really ultimately for their benefit. It comes from genuinely wanting to care for people. If you don't really desire to care for people, and specifically the people in your hometown, then you're not going to be successful. That small town mindset, small town entrepreneurs, they're the backbone of society. If you're going to go this route to be an entrepreneur, then you are a valued member of society, arguably more valuable than the bum on the street, than the person who sits in front of their TV all day and just wastes their time, their energy. That's not what you want to be as an entrepreneur in a small town, in your island, in the hood, wherever you're at. You need to be a leader. You need to win friends, influence people, and start creating value. That's what entrepreneurs do. They create value, and people invest in them. They buy their products. They go work for them. They trust them. They say, look, this is how it's going to work. It's a lot of concepts are also mentioned in Thomas Sowell's book about feudalism, which is how kings and peasants ruled, and the challenges. It even talks about communism and socialism, how societies function. It's pretty much based on people. So even the concept, how to use scarce resources with alternative uses, not to dehumanize people, but people are a resource. If you lack foot traffic, if you lack employees, if there's not a good pool of people who can read and write, then that is a scarcity. It's not a dehumanization, it's just an economic decision. So enough about that. Let's go to an even more book about people, Rich Dad, Poor Dad by Robert Kiyosaki. I think that's saying Kiyosaki, Robert. The author of Rich Dad, Poor Dad, highly suggest you read that book. Helps you to look at education. I'm a big fan of education. I love schooling. I read books for fun. I love actually ancient books. And you'll see that history repeats itself. Rich Dad, Poor Dad talks about how to look at passive income, and really just that you have to make decisions, and you're going to lose some money to make money. He says, I met many people who have never lost a dime, but they never really became rich. There's plenty of people who are rich and have lost a lot of money, myself included. There's a lot of people who I know more successful than me. And I'll tell you a quote from an entrepreneur who, he's an inventor, and if I told you what he invented, you would love it. And he's invented many things. A billionaire, he said, you know what, Fernando? So you know what, young man, the difference between a billionaire and a millionaire? A billionaire made more mistakes. He's lost more money. That's what he said. It's a true story. And this is really same concepts. It's one of the concepts mentioned in Rich Dad, Poor Dad. If you are coming from that small mindset, you got to be okay with taking the leap and making investments, and just being okay with taking the punch, because that's how business is. Sometimes you win, sometimes you lose. And it's a little more difficult when it's in your hometown. I know, because I am a hometown entrepreneur, and there are some specific challenges with that, but we're not going to go there. Good to Great, Why Some Companies Make It by Jim Collins. Good to Great is a great book because it talks about why some businesses are just good, but they never want to be great. That is very common in the small town entrepreneur. They're okay with being the small town business owner, but they don't want to have 100 locations. And I'm okay, and I understand having 100 locations is a lot of work. Maybe it's not something what you want to do, but don't be afraid to think big, to dream big. Regardless of the politics, there's a book called The Art of the Deal by President Donald Trump. He talks about how people want something big and something great. Yeah, make it whatever he says, great again. That attitude and mindset gets people excited. And Jim Collins talks about that in his book. And there's a lot of people who are just afraid to make that decision. That's very common from island people, from simple people. There's people in the hood who will love to think great and say big things, and small town dreamers, but they don't actually pull the trigger. They don't actually want to do it. And I don't think that's okay. There's some people who will say, oh, I'm going to do X, Y, and Z, and they kind of get to live in this level of like affirmation. Like, I said it. But in business, entrepreneurs, it's not, talk is cheap. It's what you do. And you got to put your money where your mouth is. Jim Collins talks about that. Profit first. Transform your business from a cash-eating monster to a money-making machine. This is more of the business mindset you have to have. I mentioned economics, and that's important, but if you want to build a business, you need to start running your business not like a small town business. You need to run it like a machine, providing standard operating procedures. Get that business to run without you. Zen's Tea House didn't get to where it's at today because I want to control everything. Absolutely not. I love delegating, and I love building things, getting it up and running, and then seeing it succeed without me. Of course, I go out and make some changes, and then I have to build the whole system again. That is the concept of profit first. You got to focus on making the profit, then scaling and growing, and that's a very difficult concept for some small business owners to comprehend. Now, the last one, probably one of my favorite books because I love branding. It's called The Brand Gap by Marty Neumeier. By Marty Neumeier, The Brand Gap. It's one of my favorite books to read. It talks about branding. I love branding because branding is not just the logo. It's not just words or brand. It's what a person feels. And if you are a small town entrepreneur, guess what? People love you. People are rooting for you. You have an opportunity to develop something that didn't exist before. And there are some real strengths and benefits from being in a small town. Small town entrepreneurs, they get the support from their community because people know them and they want to support them. The problem is there's just not a lot of people who can afford to support you, or money's tight. And so you as an entrepreneur have to figure out a way, online sales, internet, to get outside money invested into your community. That's what entrepreneurs do. That's what I've done with the tea industry. There are people who would never drink tea, all of a sudden drinking tea because we promoted the brand and people bought into it. If you're going to build a business in a small town, there's so many more points that could be made, but I want to kind of break it down to these last points. Read those 8 books, very, very helpful. But I want to break down a couple of these points. Scarcity, I understand that people don't like to have a poor scarcity mindset, but that's the reality that we live in. There's only 24 hours in a day. There's only so much material. There's only so many people. Scarcity is a rule, and you have to work within your budget. When I work with some of my clients, I always tell them, you got to work within your budget. No one likes to go into debt. I hate going into debt. I don't like using debt. I know how to use debt to make more money. I took $250,000 out and made 1.8 million within about a year and a half. Pretty good deal, I think. But I don't like it. I'd rather go the slow and steady route and build up slowly. And you have to understand scarcity. Scarcity exists because resources, labor, capital are limited, and even good talent. And so you have to be able to utilize people for alternative uses. One of the things that I've learned how to do is I've learned to get people who buy the tea, not just buy the tea and consume, but to be brand ambassadors. And I do it in a very simple way. I get them to fall in love with the brand so much that they're like, you gotta try this tea. And that is alternative uses to scarce resources. There's only so many customers that I have. How do I get the customers I have to not just buy more tea, but also to sell more tea on my behalf? And I'm not paying anyone money. I just focus on providing a lot of value. That's how you get customers to get more customers. That's alternative uses. That's Thomas Sowell's. Another way is productivity or production, the production cost. How do you get costs down and create more value? Value is perceived. There is no such thing as a fair price. It's all about supply and demand. If someone says, I'm not going to pay X, Y, and Z because I don't think it's worth it, well, for them it may not be worth it, in which case they're probably not the type of customer you want. And if you're in a small town, you're thinking, well, but these are all the people that I have. Well, okay, then you have to be able to figure out a way to get that product or service to other people, or get them to see the benefits of other parts of the company. But I'm a firm believer, don't try to sell. Just explain the value and let the person decide. It's nice if you offer something for free, samples. I'm gonna offer you something for free. I'm gonna give you a copy of my notes. Literally, this is gonna be free PDF for you. Just email me, Fernando@zenstea.com, or you can go to the website, Zen's Business Entrepreneurial Guide. We'll put a link below with the list of the books, the points, and the notes. We're going to say it's going to be a small town guide for building business. Yeah, small town guide. Hope you found this video helpful. If you want more information, go to the website zensteahouse.com. That's the corporate website. To download the free PDFs, this is zenstea.com. And please take a look at Zen's multiple YouTube videos. We create this content because we desire to grow the tea industry. Hope you enjoyed this video. If you like more videos like this, take a look at Zen's YouTube playlist, Growing the Tea Industry. And if you're an aspiring tea entrepreneur, someone who wants to start their tea business, download the free PDF for helping you start your tea business, available at zenstea.com.